Good morning. Good morning. I hope you all are having a good day. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Las Vegas. It is wonderful to be together, both virtually and in person. My name is Keri, your worship associate today, and I use she, her pronouns. Our worship leader is Reverend Roger Jones, who I knew many years ago, who's visiting us, and he uses he/him pronouns. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe about life's journey, you are welcome here. We broadcast a video feed for our virtual attendees. If you wish not to be recorded, please sit toward the back or the sides of the sanctuary. Today, during Of Our Hearts, we will partake in a common UU ritual of marking our joys and sorrows by lighting candles. Today is a silent ritual. If you have a name to lift up, please write it in the book or be prepared to place it in the chat if you're online. We'll read those names during the service. When we come together, we get to practice creating inclusive, worshipful spaces together. For those in the sanctuary, we encourage you to wear a name tag, which includes your pronouns. For those in our virtual space, please edit your name to include your pronouns. Please silence your cell phones. Yeah, I have mine. I'm using it as the clock. Yeah, there's no clock back there. It's okay. We'll survive, right? Gee, thanks, Maggie. Please hide your cell phone and refrain from using the chat on Zoom. Please also move in ways that your body needs. It's okay if you need to wiggle, stand up, sleep, or fidget. If you're sleeping, please don't snore loud. All bodies are welcome here. Welcome to our service. Before we ring the bell, please take a moment to greet all present who make this space sacred. You can say good morning, hello, wave, or just acknowledge each other's presence. Pick a bell, any bell. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Niwuvi Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this land and her peoples. We encourage everyone present here to engage in continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Moapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. It is important to recognize and appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive place for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community. The chalice lighting is going to just be a little different today, just so y'all know. The symbol of the flaming chalice represents our broader Unitarian Universalist heritage. And as we light it this morning, we affirm our connections to congregations across this country and around the world. We kindle this flame, the symbol of our shared search for truth and understanding.
In times of celebration, may its brightness reflect our gratitude.
In times of need, let its warmth renew our connection to one another and the spirit of life. In times of change, let its light illuminate our values. This morning marks the second Sunday of the season of the Wreath of Light. Our take on the Christian Advent wreath, there are many traditions we celebrate the light at this time of year with candles. Hanukkah, the solstice, and Kwanzaa all invoke candles, fire, and lights as part of their celebrations. Each week until Christmas, we light a new candle on the Wreath of Light. The circle of greenery reminds us of the eternal cycle of life, without beginning or end. And the candles remind us that we are each called to emit our glow amid the pain and suffering facing our world. We invite light to grow brighter and brighter, guiding us toward personal peace, shared joy, and more love. The first candle we lit was for hope. The second candle is lit to symbolize our longing for peace. I invite Mac up to speak to us about what peace means to him. And I was asked to remind you, it's made of rosemary. If you'd like to take home a sprig of rosemary, please feel free.
Good morning, all. Good morning, my loves. This is the usual. I have to come in here to actually be inspired to put down what it is I want to say. And it's so easy once I'm in the presence of all of you. It's always. And when I was asked which one did I want to do, love, peace, and I believe it was hope, or I was like, okay, I was agonized. It's something about peace is important to me. And I thought about a service that we had earlier in the year, and something that was said. And I have it on my phone, and I see it every day. And I say it every day. And I wasn't aware until I started trying to do this. We had a gentleman here, I believe maybe from Africa, somewhere with Reverend Gordon here. And he started off by saying, I came in peace. I will leave in peace. And that's so profound in this world that we live in today. Peace. You know, and I realized that peace only comes through love. So I would like everybody, if you can just give me a moment, to at least acknowledge someone in the room and just say, I love you. Because without love, peace is not impossible. But not possible, should I say. I love you also. Love all of you. So I was like, oh, I should write something fancy. Then I went to a UU site and go, oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to get one of those books. And I read through and I looked at a couple of pages, you know, you can do like on Amazon. It's like, this is so fitting. Because as adults, sometimes we forget the basics of what peace really, and the representation of what peace really is. It's not really complicated. It's really simple. Peace is making new friends, and that's what we're here to do, right? Right? Would you all agree? Make new friends, new acquaintances, new people who are going to do what? They're going to impact others' lives and they're going to share love. I know love is not my thing, but it's going to be part of my theme, because peace and love to me are the same, and they're intertwined. Without love, you won't have peace. Peace is keeping the water blue for all the fish. Peace is listening to different kinds of music. Peace is saying you're sorry when you hurt someone. Peace is helping your neighbor, which I see quite frequently in here. You know, I see a lot of faces that come in here and hand out food and move those cases and pallets around. Peace is reading all different kinds of books. Peace is thinking about someone you love. And I could go on and on throughout this book. But at this point here, I want to ask you, what is peace to you? And how have you defined peace? And how have you exemplified peace? Are you giving that part of you that you know you cherish, and sometimes it is hard, because it means sacrificing. Peace is a cornerstone to this congregation succeeding. Peace is so important to ensure that we have a community that supports us all, regardless of what our beliefs are, where we've come from, maybe getting a warning, and who we are. I didn't really know how long I'm supposed to be up here, but
That's good, man.
I want to tell you is that this congregation means the world to me. I haven't belonged to a congregation since I was a child, and you know how that is when your parents. And it wasn't until I found this congregation I felt like I belonged. And Reverend Gordon, I can't remember the other young lady that was here, always made me feel like I was at home. This is truly that third space, that place where I know I can come and get a moment and reflect on things that maybe are a challenge in that moment. So, in peace, I leave. How life is. Sometimes the flame goes out, but you can relight it and get it going again, right? And sometimes we have to move just a little slower.
Just like the, you might be able to, this needs to. The one in front. There we go.
Thank you, Mac. Good morning. Good morning. I'm really happy to be here. This is my first time visiting this congregation, and bring you greetings from Sacramento, where I serve, the UU Society of Sacramento. It's good to be with you. I've met some of you in other places, and especially Jeff and Keri, whom I knew when they were part of the Sacramento congregation. And my longtime friend and host, the Reverend Dave Schuneman, who lives in Vegas, and we've known each other since we started seminary together 30 years ago. Whether you're participating here in person or online, it's good to be with you. Indeed, these days of challenge, amid all the shadows of the world which can try our souls, we gather in worship to seek light and strength. In the calendar of the Jewish year, we are in the middle of the week of Hanukkah, a festival over 7 days which recalls an ancient story of struggle. Through the lighting of the menorah candles on every night of the week, Hanukkah celebrates a rededication to enduring values of community, freedom, and faith. In the Christian calendar, the Sundays of Advent serve as reminders of the gift of hope, the promise of peace, the surprise of joy, and the ever-present call to live in the spirit of love. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we come together today as people seeking strength, clarity, connection, and purpose. Let our senses awaken to give and receive the gift of life and the blessing of this new day. We invite you to rise as you're comfortable and sing hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep
We will now ground ourselves in the present and honor the thread of humanity that connects us as human beings. If you have someone you would like held up, please add their name to the chat. As humans striving toward a beloved community, we have the privilege and responsibility to hold on to each other as we live the joys and sorrows of life. We take this sacred time to acknowledge the people we hold in our hearts, that in sharing our triumph and joy may be multiplied and our pain and sorrow may lessen their sting. Now we will participate in a common UU ritual of marking our joys and sorrows by lighting a candle from a common flame. The candle signifies a lightness or burden on your heart. The light they shed together represents the love and strength of our community to surround, support, and celebrate you. There's also a small bowl, I believe, of lightly scented eucalyptus oil if you would like to anoint yourself to seal this practice. If you would like to participate, please come forward. All are welcome. Today, we hold up Dennis McBride, Dan Tosick, Ann Sustak, Nesia Brown, Pam Vale, Nick, and Nancy. Irma, is there anyone in the chat? Elizabeth Cardenas? Martinez. And all of the victims of the UNLV shooting and their families.
Can you hear me in there?
May we hold all that was spoken and all that is kept in the silence of our hearts in love and compassion.
This is a congregation of compassion and of care, of gratitude and celebration, and we acknowledge that richness by our silent witness of the shining lights before us. And now I invite you to take a moment with me for a time of meditation and prayer. Let us start by noticing where we are physically, the contact that our bodies are making where we sit, where our feet are touching, where our hands are resting. And let us give thanks for this physical world. Let us give thanks for our senses, which help us behold the richness of the world around us. And now let us take a few moments to notice our breathing in and out. We breathe in for a moment as a simple act of sustaining ourselves, a simple act which is also a miracle. Breathe in deeply, pause for a moment, and then exhale deeply with me. We breathe in life and possibility. Let us take a deeper breath in and pause for a moment and then let it out deeply. Let us breathe out strength for one another and our prayers for hope. As we continue breathing, may we open ourselves to divine love and open our hearts to the spirit of human kinship as I offer these words a prayer. O Spirit of life and love, be with us now and in the days to come, in care and compassion. In these days, there are so many events and places which bring to our minds and spirits grief and shock, so many occasions which need our compassion and care. This past week, another violent outburst of gun violence has taken place in this desert community, traumatizing so many and losing 3 people and causing injuries to another one on the university campus. We extend our condolences to the families, colleagues, friends, and students of those lost and harmed. In this time of anguish and mourning, we pray for healing from physical injuries and emotional ones. We hold a vision that safety and peace are possible for every person in the local community and for everyone everywhere. We extend this vision beyond this country to the Middle East, to Israel and Palestine, where images of widespread suffering defy belief. We pray for mercy. We extend this vision of safety and peace to the people in Ukraine, and we pray for mercy. We long for peace and freedom for all families everywhere. We hold the vision that safety and peace and freedom are possible for everyone in every land. On this day, and in the days to come, let us also remember that many people are celebrating special occasions, marking milestones in life, and appreciating achievements in their lives and in their circles of care and affection. O Spirit of life and love, remind us to rejoice in all occasions that remind us that life is a gift. Renew us through simple acts, and renew us through the simple gift of gratitude. In a world where so many are seeking only dignity, freedom, and safety, let us extend our prayers for peace. Let us send strength to all who need it. Let us endeavor to do what we can to help and extend love. So may it be. Blessed be, and amen. Now let us take a few moments in silence for our personal prayers or meditations. Blessed be. Now I invite you to remain seated as we sing a pastoral hymn, number 159, tuned by John Sibelius, whose birthday was on Friday. He would have been 165. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song In a moment, we will hear an excerpt from a movement from Sergei Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto. We will hear and see the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra and piano soloist Yuja Wang perform part of this concerto. And our pianist at our church in Sacramento, who is from the former Soviet Union, told me a story about Rachmaninoff, who is also from the former Soviet Union. He was one of the greatest pianist composers of the world, admired both for his brilliant playing and his works of beauty. After the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, he fled to the United States. And Rachmaninoff's first concert was in Providence, Rhode Island. He settled on the Upper East Side of Manhattan with his family. Later in life, relocated to Beverly Hills. He was considered one of the most successful performing musicians of his time. Yet his fame and success never suggested the struggle and insecurity that he experienced throughout his life. In particular, Rachmaninoff was forever haunted by the failure of his first symphony in 1887. At the premiere in the city of St. Petersburg, an under-rehearsed orchestra with a probably inebriated conductor made it a fiasco. One critic and composer compared it with the Bible's 10 plagues of Egypt. The critic said that music was fit only for a music conservatory in hell. With his dreams crushed, Rachmaninoff plunged into a severe depression. For the next 3 years, he wrote nothing. Eventually, with the support of a psychiatrist, he was able to return to work. And when he wrote his second piano concerto, he dedicated it in honor of his doctor, Nikolai Dahl, who had helped him to climb out of despair and to restore his confidence. And so that's what we'll hear in a moment. What became of that infamous First Symphony? He locked it away in his desk, and he made no attempt to collect the orchestral parts that he'd written before he left St. Petersburg in haste. And it was only after the composer's death in 1944 when the instrumental parts of this concerto were discovered by accident in the archives of the Leningrad Conservatory. And the second performance of the piece was considered a success. It took place at the famed Moscow Conservatory in 1945, 3/4 of a century after the first performance. And the American premiere in 1948 took place at the Philadelphia Orchestra with Eugene Ormandy conducting. Rachmaninoff's reputation as a composer rose up after his death, and that symphony became part of the standard repertoire of great symphony orchestras. From different times and places, here are some of the responses of listeners who were stunned by this work. One called it one of the best romantic symphonies of all time. Another called it ferociously impressive. And another person said, I lived so long without being familiar with it. Peace to all. And if you meet rejection at first, it could mean that you are a power waiting to be recognized. I'm so glad to have learned that story.
We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon for love and justice in the desert, and supports local organizations working to make our community a better place for all. The offering this month is shared with Foster Kinship. Foster Kinship believes that when children can't be with their parents, they should be with their family. Its mission is to strengthen kinship caregivers' capacity to provide safe, stable, and nurturing homes for children. This year, UUCLV will be helping many families by getting gifts for children in foster care, staying with their families. We do this in honor of Kathy Espin, who started this tradition here at UUCLV a number of years ago. She was a member who passed away in 2020. This offering is a spiritual practice of generosity that this congregation does as a whole each week. Please join us as a member or friend in this practice. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and our ushers will pass plates where you can donate. And now, please join with me. With gratitude for the abundance in our own lives, we give for the life of this congregation and the benefit of the larger community. Thank you for your gifts of time and treasure.
Lori and I have a story to read to you, and it's entitled Duck Rabbit. And who's it by?
Oh, goodness.
Oh,
It'll show
yeah.
up.
It'll show up, okay.
By Amy Krauss Rosenthal and Tom Lichtenheld. Hey, look, a duck.
That's not a duck. That's a rabbit.
Are you kidding me? It's totally a duck.
It's for sure a rabbit.
See? There's his bill.
What are you talking about? Those are ears, silly. They must be ears. I have the last word.
What do you think? Duck? Rabbit? Try again. All right.
It worked in rehearsal, didn't it, Leo? Remember?
Hey, look, a duck.
That's not a duck. It's a rabbit.
Are you kidding me? It's totally a duck.
It's for sure a rabbit.
See? There's his bill.
What are you talking about? Those are ears, silly.
It's a duck, and he is about to eat a piece of bread. See?
It's a rabbit, and he's about to eat a carrot.
Wait, listen. Did you hear that? I heard duck sounds. Quack, quack.
That's funny. I distinctly heard rabbit sounds.
Now the duck is wading through a swamp.
No, the rabbit is hiding in the grass.
There, see? It's flying.
Flying, it's hopping.
Look, the duck is so hot, he's getting a drink.
No, the rabbit is so hot, he's cooling off his ears.
Here, look at the duck through my binoculars.
Sorry, still a rabbit.
Here, ducky, ducky.
Here, you cute little rabbit.
Oh, great. You scared him away.
I didn't scare him away. You scared him away.
You know, maybe you were right. Maybe it was a rabbit.
Thing is, now I'm actually thinking it was a duck.
Well, anyway, now what do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Oh, hey, look, an anteater.
That's no anteater, that's a brachiosaurus.
The end.
Stories are powerful aspects of human life. Stories enrich us, challenge us, and connect us. Yet any of us can get hooked on stories that lead us away from connection. In the story Duck Rabbit, which Rory and I just read out loud to you, each of the characters had a story stuck in its head about what it saw. They were so convinced that they knew what they were looking at that they couldn't even consider another perspective. Could not imagine that there might be a larger story which could include both of them. They got so upset with each other that the story was no longer about the mystery to be explored. The story was about their conflict. Of course, there was the brief chance of a new story emerging. They were going to ask the creature, "What do you call yourself?" But it was too late. They had scared it off. What's your story? When people meet, sometimes one will ask the other person, "So what's your story?" In the dominant culture, there are acceptable stock answers: your age, background, place of origin, family, field of work. And to be honest, if you don't have a sense that your listener will receive your story with care, you might be safe with stock answers. But as listeners and as speakers, we must remember that every life can be told from various angles, various perspectives. We contain many stories. Every story may have something in it that's true, but every story may not be helpful to keep on telling. Some stories get in our way. We can get hooked on stories that keep us from accepting ourselves for who we are and feeling grateful for our lives. They can sap our sense of purpose and worth. Today, we're looking at good ideas for telling new stories. Diane Millis is a professor and a spiritual director in Minnesota, and she's the author of a book entitled Recreating a Life. And by this title, Mills doesn't mean creating a life different from the one that you have. She's talking about taking the time to think about your life using a variety of perspectives. For example, she recommends that we imagine our own stories in the third person. Rather than thinking, I did this or that happened to me, we should think about ourselves as the main character in a story. Our narrator's perspective should be a perspective of compassion. The story can bear witness to pain, but also to the courage and fortitude and survival of the main character. The narrator could highlight the moments of goodness, the parts of the story that enrich our lives. Millis recommends that we start the story in the way that we would start a fairy tale, once upon a time. Sit down and write it out, she says. Take only 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, just a page or two. Of course, like a fairy tale, our story might have dangers and hardships in it, but it might also contain unpredictable journeys. And consider, as you write it, when did a detour in plans bring this person to a surprising place in life? Tell the parts of the story that show your lead character's endurance and integrity. Describe the gestures of kindness that this person received and gave to others. Diane Millis advises, you are the story you tell yourself, so make sure you tell yourself a good story. Once upon a time, when Diane Millis was a little girl growing up in Minnesota, she thought she had a perfect life, and she tried very hard to keep it that way. Yet her parents divorced, and she and her mother moved away to Arizona. She left behind her family, her school, and her sense of holding everything together. Her world was broken apart. In early adulthood, she used to wonder, what if that little girl's parents had not split up and she hadn't moved away? How much better would her life be? Now, however, many years later, she could admire the little girl's endurance and her strength. She gives thanks for the people she met along the way. She can identify the talents which she developed in the midst of all of that. For example, her ordeals taught her the practice of compassionate listening. And she's able to bring this practice to her life now as a mother, wife, teacher, and a listening professional. She says that we must hold our stories lightly, not tightly. And this is how we can receive the stories of others as well, lightly, not tightly. Too often the stories we tell are saturated with problems. It is tempting to connect with other people by telling sad stories, to bond over lamenting or complaining or grumbling or griping. Yet such stories can also be draining. The problem-saturated story is not the only story. It's one of many that we could tell. Perhaps it would connect us even more if we included some shining moments in our stories. Assuming that we're not trying to one-up each other or we're not telling a lie, we can share moments that shine for us. Millis doesn't say we should ignore pain or sweep away problems. Only allow the shining moments to be seen. 27 years ago, I began serving the UU Fellowship in Sunnyvale, California, my first ministry. And soon after I started there, I went to Boston to attend a training for a group of new ministers hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston. And our trainer, a minister who worked for the UUA, said to us, I know that you can outdo each other with a problem-saturated story about the congregation that you're serving. So I'm not going to ask for that. Instead, he said, think of 3 shining moments from the life of your congregation, and then share them with one another. So we took some time to think, and then after we thought, we went around in circles, and we told our 3 stories, our 3 shining moments to the group. And after we did that, we all felt hopeful and confident about our work. And as we heard shining moments from others, we felt happy. We gave thanks for one another's work. It brought us together. It left us with a better mood than a problem-saturated story would have. You are the story you tell yourself, so make sure you tell yourself a good story. Looking at the boy who is the main character of my life, I could tell a sad story, and I have on a number of occasions throughout my life. But I don't recall telling that story in the third person, and I could add some shining moments to it. So, once upon a time, in a dysfunctional, distracted family, this boy didn't feel welcome. You could say his days were saturated with loneliness. But on many evenings, he learned to play card games at the home of his great aunt, his mother's Aunt Kate. And he spent whole days at the house of his cousins and his Uncle Roger and Aunt Mary. And there, in their house, he enjoyed many home-cooked meals, eating some dishes he had never heard of before, and even trying his hand at making some of them. His uncle had served as a cook on a ship in the Navy during the Second World War. When his uncle recalled the task of making a turkey dinner for Thanksgiving for hundreds of men out at sea, describing it in detail, his uncle's eyes twinkled. In school, this boy felt lonely and shy. Yet in high school, he became a high school newspaper reporter. This made it easier for him to get other kids to talk, which relieved his awkwardness. It made teachers notice his work, which he liked. He was a people pleaser. He didn't want to make waves, so he often held himself back. Yet when he was armed with a reporter's notebook and fired up with his First Amendment right to the freedom of the press, he sat in the principal's office grilling the man with questions. Another time, this same kid argued with a tall, white male history teacher who didn't like an editorial opinion that he had written and published in the school paper. Back then, this boy didn't know that he was armed also with privilege as a male and as a white person, which made it easier for him to get away with being so bold with authority figures. But if he had known about this privilege, he might have written about it or spoken about that also. In any case, he can do that now. This boy dreaded physical education class, feeling self-conscious and inadequate. So many dropped basketballs so many dropped baseballs in the outfield, so many basketballs missing the basket. Yet in high school physical education class, he learned how to swim laps. He was never a competitor at swimming, but using that skill has given him pleasure and health for decades ever since. So that's me in the third person. Once I started writing this, I remembered other shining moments from my story. It made me feel better. Not only do I have more compassion for the kid who's the main character of the story, I like him better than he liked himself. We must hold our stories lightly, not tightly. Except for our phantom stories. We can let go of them altogether. Phantom stories haunt us with lives we didn't live. They including asking the what-if questions and lamenting the if-onlys of our lives. Sometimes I listen to them. If only I had stayed in that relationship or the other one. If only I'd gone to law school or medical school. What if I had majored in computer science? Phantom stories are so powerful as to seem realistic, but they're not. They get in the way of appreciating the life we have. Instead of telling a phantom story, let's consider the story that we want to create for the days ahead of us. Let us remember that every story is incomplete and unfinished. As I mentioned earlier, Sergei Rachmaninoff's First Symphony was rejected by critics when it premiered, in part because the orchestra played it badly, and in part because it was bold and unfamiliar. The story of rejection and failure haunted him for years, and he left the composition locked away for the rest of his life. Fortunately, with compassion and guidance from a listening professional, Rachmaninoff kept on composing. And fortunately, his bold First Symphony was discovered some years later. It was published and played, and it continues to enrich the world. Every story is incomplete and unfinished, even after we're gone. We don't have to be a composer whose early work was hidden away for this to be true. There's always more to be heard, more to understand, more to be understood. Let us imagine that a larger story remains always to be unveiled and appreciated. Let us consider our own stories and write them and tell them with as much compassion as we can, holding the tough moments with love and celebrating the moments that shine. Doing this will help us to be able to bear witness to the stories of others and to receive their stories with care. Stories enrich us, connect us, and challenge us. They are gifts we share. May we be grateful for all these gifts now and in all the days to come. So may it be. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is in the teal hymnal number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please rise as you're able to sing. I invite you to reach out or reach toward us in a gesture of connection. And if you're at home, reach out to us as we reach out to you. May you depart in peace and return in joy. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step, one day at a time. Blessed be.
Okay, where's-
Sorry.
no. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not seeing real well. So, let me get them here. I know I have them. There we go. All right. Yep. 3 weeks ago, diverse and revolutionary Unitarian Universalist multicultural ministries released an open letter to UU colleagues on the war and occupation in Palestine. We quote them here. We call upon Unitarian Universalists to demand an immediate ceasefire without conditions, support for humanitarian aid, an end to U.S. military support for the State of Israel, an immediate release of the nearly 10,000 Palestinian refugees held in Israel, and the 240 Israeli hostages taken on October 7th. It also means broadly committing to an end to the occupation, joining the fight for a free Palestine, and engaging in hard and necessary conversations about the impacts of Zionism. We encourage you to continue listening to stories from those impacted by this crisis, and then reach out to your representatives to make sure your voice is heard. History is repeating itself, and our moral action is one critical action we can take to interrupt the cycle of violence. On the slide, you can see the senators and representatives for Southern Nevada, which, by the way, I think I know this, Jackie Rosen, Catherine Cortez Masto, those are our senators, and Susie Lee, thank you. Always, for some reason I was thinking Sharon, but I knew it's Susie. And thank you. And then there's one other, Nita Titus. I should know this, and I do when I'm looking at my computer. And also you can go to www.govtrack.us. So the announcements we have is we have the Newcomers Chalice Circle today from 12 to 2 in the library. We have storytelling with UUCLV Many Voices on Wednesday, December 13th. And we have a UNLV healing service on Thursday, December 14th from 5 to 7. Next Sunday is a town hall meeting. This is dear to my heart because I worked real hard on this, the budget. We're going to vote on the revised budget that reflects our differing costs since the minister is no longer with us. In addition to the few we have highlighted, there are many more announcements and events this week and in the coming weeks. To see them, head over to our webpage using the QR code. Is it on the screen? Well, it's not on the screen, but or visit uuclv.org. Thank you very much. I think a round of applause for Reverend Jones. Reverend Jones, Jeff and I lived in Sacramento in 2014, and we really loved the UU in Sacramento. And when his name come up as one of our possible guest speakers, I was like, yes, please. So, and I even volunteered to do this even though I'm not seeing well. So thank God for 18-point type. Let me see. And of course, thank to our AV team, Jeff and Larry today, and Kay and Alana and Leo. And I still have to do the, yes. Sorry, I lost my place. This is the problem with not being able to see. Yeah, here we go. Chalice extinguishing. And now join with me. We release that which was called with love and gratitude, and we extinguish the flame, but not our commitment to being a beacon in the desert. This burns brightly until we gather again. Those are done.